Good evening again, everyone. Welcome, everybody who's walking in right now. We want to discuss this topic here, spiritual genesis. A little bit of an explanation. This is based on the book of the Genesis. That's one of the 5 books in the codification. This is based on chapter 11. The book of Genesis is actually 3 books in one. This is the last book of the codification. The first book was published in 1857. This is 1868. So Allan Kardec, by then he had about 12 years of experience writing about it, understanding about it. Because when you're going to write something we don't have a reference at all. He was the first one to do something like this, so it's difficult. So he was very much getting used to it in the very beginning. So by then he has a solid method of writing and passing information along. So what he decides to do here is do a big, huge wrap-up of everything that had been published so far, not only on the other 4 books, but he also published the Spiritist magazine, 1 issue every month, 12 per year during 12 years. That's 144 issues. That's a lot. So I don't know how he did it, but he did. Good for us. So in this chapter, this book is 3 books in one. The first part is called the Genesis. That's what we're going to talk about. The second part, predictions, and the last one, miracles. On the first part, there are 12 chapters. Okay, and the purpose of this part is to explain spiritual genesis, meaning how spirits came to one day and how incarnate on earth. That's what we need to explain today. And in order to do that, he needs to pass along a lot of information, which we're going to cover here tonight. That's what the first 10 chapters are. He's preparing the way, paving the way to, like building a case, I would say, to actually get to some conclusions. And that conclusion is chapter 11. That's what we're going to discuss today here. So like I said before, the purpose is to explain incarnations on planet Earth, how they started. So we have, just by talking about it, we have 3 elements in place. We have a spirit that's going to incarnate. We have the physical matter that's going to be used by the spirit to have its physical form. And we have the planet where this particular spirit is going to incarnate. So we have these 3 elements, and these 3 things have to be ready at the same time. They have to all come in place together. Otherwise, it won't happen. And each one of them has its own history. Like the spirit had to go through a certain trajectory, and the same for the matter, organic matter, and the same for the planets. So in order for us to understand this point, where the 3 are ready, we need to study each one of these ways here, this path, separately. And that's what Kardec does for us. In the book, he divides the chapter in these 6 sub-items here that we're going to see. So we're going to more or less follow what it says. Starting with number 1, how did the spirit get ready? What kind of preparation had the spirits, like us, had to go through to be able to incarnate for the first time on planet Earth? What we know is that from God, this is just a representation, obviously, but from God, there are 2 principles. Okay, one is called the spiritual principle, okay, which is, it contains every basic element of everything that one day is going to be intelligence of some form. Okay? On the other hand, we have the material principle, which contains the very basic elements of everything that one day is going to be matter in whatever vibrational state. Okay, these 2 things, they have to kind of talk, they have to connect. Okay, now, it's complicated to connect these 2 things. Just think of us, for example, our thought, the speed of our thought, okay, and the speed of the chair. How can your thought connect to the chair? You need like a middleman in there. This is the same thing here. We need a middleman. We need a clutch that allows this thing to happen. This clutch is called universal cosmic fluid. But it's not just like a little box that connects 2 other boxes like this. It is where everything is. Everything is into this fluid. Everything is in it. We are in it right now. The chair is in it, the microphone is in it, the planets are in it, the universe is in it. So it is the big clutch. That's going to allow these 2 principles to connect. Okay? Now, on that side, the spiritual principle, There are several different forms of intelligence. This, like I said, it contains the basic elements of everything that one day is going to be intelligence of some form. And there are several different forms. One of these forms is the spirit. It's one of the forms. There are other forms, okay? For example, if I ask you, is there intelligence in this chair? Okay, if you don't know the answer, just think about it. How does it stay the way it is? It doesn't dismantle. So there is intelligence. It's not a spirit. Do not mix these two things. Forms of intelligence is different than us as a spirit. It's different, but there's got to be some intelligence in there. Otherwise, it would just be a bunch of metal, a bunch of, molecules and atoms. So the chair has an intelligence, which is one of these other drops here. It's not the spirit, it's something else, okay? Now, on this other side here, material principle, very same thing. Matter, as we know it, like chair and desk and things that we touch, body, this is one form of matter. There are many other forms of matter. Perispirit is another form. Thought is another form, okay? So thought is one of these drops. Perispirit is another drop. Physical body or a chair is another drop, okay? Now, one of these forms is matter, as we know, which is inorganic. It has no life. It's just static matter, okay? Now, the spirit, in order to incarnate one day, it's going to have to be able to organize this matter, okay? How does it happen? The spirit, as it goes along through its path, it will develop several attributes. So you will develop several attributes here, okay? One of these attributes, it's what allows the spirit to touch and operate the matter. This particular attribute is called vital principle. So until the day or the time that the spirit develops the ability called vital principle, before that it cannot incarnate, because it doesn't have a way to operate matter. It needs to get to that first. That's the itinerary it has to follow. That's the path. When this is in place, when the vital principle is in place, the spirit is going to take this matter, which is disorganized, and is going to organize this matter. Then that's what we call organic matter. It's a matter that is organized, and the spirit is going to be able to do something with this matter now. When this is all in place, then the spirit can organize the matter, and it will prepare a form that's going to be used later on when it incarnates on the planet. This form is called the perispirit. So the perispirit is formed by the spirit after it develops a particular attribute called vital principle that allows him the ability to organize matter and put this form out. This is what I'm going to be when I incarnate. Now, this perispirit is one form of matter. When the perispirit when the spirit actually incarnates and has a physical body, this perispirit is going to connect to another drop here, which is physical body, physical matter, as we know. So this is what the spirit has to go through all the way from the beginning to one day be able to operate matter and incarnate. Now, the matter that the spirit is going to organize has to be ready as well. So we saw the spirit has its trajectory, but the matter has also its own trajectory and the planet. So what is the trajectory of the matter? We know that matter starts right here in the atom, okay? We spiritists, we have a lot of, we always back out when we speak about atoms and molecules. It should not be, because that's where it all starts. If you don't understand the very basic element to the level that we need, not as a chemical person, nothing like this, not as a PhD, but if we do not understand at a basic level, everything else from there is difficult. What is an atom? In simple words, it's a concentration of energy, we call nucleus, and other smaller concentration of energies running around this. These little things here are called electrons. Okay. Now, what we found is this: when we look into this thing in the center here, in this concentration of energy, with technology, we found out that this is actually two little charges, two little blocks of energy, not one, as we thought. It's two. And we can see in the picture here, Okay, one of them is called the proton, one is neutron, and this guy here is the electron. Neutron, the name says, has no electrical charge. Proton is positive, and the electron is negative. So the whole thing is imbalanced. The whole thing is running as it should. Now, what is interesting is we found out that in certain cases there were some atoms in which we didn't have 1, 1, and 1. We had 2, 2, and 2. In others, we had 3, 3, and 3. In others, we had 4, 4, and 4. This number, okay, the science calls atomic number. So we found out that there were elements, atomic number 1, and it would go all the way up to 92. Okay, 92 is Uranus. Now think about this. What do you think? This is intuition, okay? What do you think it's easier to more stable, the 1 or the 92? The 1 is more stable, right? It's a lot easier for you to teach a 1-person class than a 92-person class. It's you can put 92 kids in a classroom and try to do something with them. It's a lot more complicated. So the 92 is more likely to be unstable. And that's true. It is so true that these 92 electrons in the Uranus, it is so unstable that at times one of these electrons, they fly out. They just lose it. They fly out. When they fly out, they provide energy. This energy is what we use for nuclear energy and things like that. That's why that kind of science requires, and that's their gold mine. Uranus is their gold mine because it generates this energy. So we go from 1 to 92. Then we found out, well, there's more than 92. Then we found out that there was from 93 today, we know, until 118. From 93 to 118, we know them, they have names, we give names to these things. But the problem is they are so unstable that you are able to produce these things in a lab, in a research lab, but they die in a fraction of time. You can't really see this thing, you can't really operate this thing because it's so unstable, from 93 to 118. Okay, close parenthesis. So let's keep going here. So that's one atom. I'm going to come back to this because it's going to matter to us, okay? These combinations of atoms will form what we call the molecules. Combinations of molecules form what we know as minerals, okay? So these minerals, they are a bunch of atoms of certain form in a certain combination. So what we found out is certain minerals, especially those whose atoms have atomic number relatively high, meaning the ones that are easy to be unstable, some of these things, our science would look into a microscope and would find strange things in the middle of these minerals. As a mineral, they are supposed to be all static. There's no life here. This is mineral, right? And once a particular scientist, Stanley, here in the United States, he found out something very interesting. He would look into some minerals and he would see that there were some things were like moving inside. And he said, no, I got to see what this is. It can't be. It doesn't make any sense. So as technology got better, this is in the late 50s that he started to do this thing. So our technology by then allowed to have a good glimpse of what was going on. And he found out that there were things in there that were moving. There were like moving parts inside the mineral. And he was able to freeze these minerals. When he froze these minerals as experiments, these things inside would not freeze. So he said, well, this is life. That's really strange. And he designated this by the name of crystalline viruses. They are really viruses because they, like a cold virus, it will get into your system. In this case, it will get into the mineral and reproduce and start controlling the mineral behavior. So this guy here, these crystals, they are the transition point between the mineral kingdom and the vegetable or the plants kingdom. They are the last frontier. And then we go from here, we go into the plants kingdom. So we're trying to establish how matter got ready for us to one day, for a spirit one day, be able to do something with this. Spirit can't do anything with the minerals yet. But when the crystalline viruses were discovered, that's when the intelligence taps in. right? That's the intelligence tapping in right there. So it starts to animate that static matter. And when we go into the plants kingdom, and it starts with a very simple plants, very simple cells, and it goes all the way through the most complex ones, big, huge trees and complex cells like corn. The cells in a corn plant, the seed on the corn, the cells themselves, okay, they are very complicated, very complex, better saying. So we go into the plants kingdom, and there's going to be a point where there's going to be like a last frontier. There's going to be some type of plant that is the top of that kingdom. That plant is the carnivore plant. If we look into the carnivore plant, what is it? It's a little plant like this, right? And it opens something like this, and right here it produces some liquid, and it places the liquid right here. This liquid has a very strong smell for the insects around, so they smell it and they go for the potty. Okay, so when they fly in for the potty, they felt like they're invited for the potty. So when they land here, they got eaten up. So what is a definition from the science point of view? What is a definition of one of these carnivorous plants? Here it is: species that attract and trap prey, okay, produce digestive enzymes, and absorb the nutrients. Hold on. Produce digestive enzymes? Is that a plant? Or is that an animal? It's both, right? It has one leg here, one leg here. It's a little bit of both. That's the superior point in the plants kingdom. And then from here we go into the next kingdom, which is the animals. And it starts all the way with the simple amoebas, and it goes all the way up to the most complex one. And the most complex one is called anthropoid. Anthropoid is like right after the monkey, if we could say that. A very interesting definition of the anthropoid is in the book On the Way to the Light by Emmanuel. This is what it says. These anthropoids, these guys here, okay, were the ancestors of both human beings and modern-day apes. Both. There's nothing about replacement. There's nothing about replacement. One turns into the other. Nobody's saying anything like this, okay? So they come from the same common point in evolution. So what this means is the thing is happening here and here and here. When it gets here, it branches in two, like this. It's a fork. So apes continue and humans start. That's what it means here, Emmanuel. That's what he's saying. Now, one of the great guys who studied this was Darwin. In 1859, he publishes his Origin of the Species book. And in the book, he says, this is my theory right here. There's a lot of things that are unanswered. He writes in the book, a lot of things I couldn't find out because I don't have the resources at the time, but hopefully somebody else is going to come after me and be able to respond to these holes in the theory. And one of these holes is this. He used to call the descent from the tree. That means the ape or the chimp was up there in the tree eating banana. He gets down and he starts walking. He's a man. It's absurd, but that's how he called descent from the tree. And he says, I don't know how to explain this. So he put in clear words. We don't know. I mean, science one day is going to find, hopefully. That was his point. Now, we know it's right here. It's right here. In terms of spiritism, what does it mean? It means this. The spirit is getting ready and collecting attributes and everything that we just saw. Okay? When the spirit is ready, it is more intelligent. If you're going to have human incarnations, the spirit that's ready at this point is more intelligent than the spirit that incarnates, which is the monkey or the chimp. If you have a spirit that's more intelligent, it can operate a more complex machine. All right? If the spirit is more intelligent, but it operates the same physical machine, what's the point? Right? So the spirits now collect all the attributes and so and so and so, and got to a point that it can operate a better machine. So the thing is, what is the current machine? The best machine that we have today? It's called chimp. So what we're going to do is we're going to tweak this chimp machine and make it a human, an anthropoid. the difference in genes, the genetic difference between us and the chimps is 300 genes in 25,000. It's a minimum. So that's exactly what happened. Nobody came down from the tree eating bananas and started walking. That's not what it is, okay? We had the spirit ready. And the evolution of the physical bodies got to the point where this is it. But I need to tweak this guy a little bit because I need a better machine because I have a better spirit right now. I don't know if the idea is clear, okay? But that's what took place here. And then we go into the anthropoids. That's the superior point on the animals and the inferior points on humans. And then we got into the humans kingdom, hominal. One interesting thing is this thing here, science does not acknowledge this. Official science, academic science, does not acknowledge this thing here. However, they give us this table. Okay, what is this table? If you look at this, okay, these are individuals starting with the E. coli bacteria. Sometimes you hear on the news E. coli is on the spinach and lettuce and so on. So it's a bacteria. So it's a tiny, tiny, tiny thing. And it goes down all the way to humans. And this is the percent, okay, of the genetics that is equal to us. So 15% of our genetics is the same as the E. coli. That's what it means. 30% is the same as the yeast. And so 75% is the same as the mouse. And you see the chimp, 98.4%. That's those 300 genes, the difference. Two human beings, 99.9, two human beings not related, not blood related. And two human beings within the same blood family, 99.95. Now, isn't that strange that science gives me this, but they don't believe this? That's kind of, they should. Anyway, it's a whole different story. But this gives us a very interesting visibility on the evolution, okay? How the DNA was being tweaked and modified and better and better and better and better, so we can have a better machine for a better intelligence to operate this machine. So it all starts, the matter that we follow the study here, all starts with the atom. Okay, and in the first kingdom, it goes until these crystalline viruses, which will generate the next kingdom, that goes until here, the carnivore plants, and then it goes into the animal kingdom, which goes until the chimps, then comes us. Does it stop here or there's something else? Well, we have an answer from 2,000 years ago. Isn't there another kingdom? Yes or no?
Yes.
If there's another kingdom, some of these individuals here are the superior point on this kingdom and the bottom inferior point on the next kingdom. Right? Just like these transition points here. So who are these physical individuals that are these transition points? It would be nice to know, because then we know what to follow or who to follow, right? Here are some of them. Gandhi, Chico Xavier, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, St. Francis, and there's a whole list. It doesn't fit in the picture, but that's the idea. These are people that are here or were here at one point, okay? And they were the transition points. They were the superior limit on this kingdom, and obviously the inferior limit, the start of the next kingdom, the get-go over here. So these are the people that will help us get directions, okay? Now, as we go along here, each of these, remember the spirit collects attributes. So these things are all based on evolution. So the great thing that we got in the mineral kingdom is the attraction, the ability to attract different atoms, different molecules, and form a mineral. Okay, that's just pure attraction. In the vegetable kingdom, it's sensation. Okay, plants have sensation. Okay, you go with some water in there, that's one reaction. You go with a huge pair of scissors, that's another thing. Okay. Animal kingdom, instinct, which is still very strong in our in hominal kingdom. In the hominal kingdom, reason, not necessarily we make good use of it, but we have it. Okay, we acquire that. And so you see the evolution here. You see the process getting more complex, more complicated, but overall much, 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 much better. Okay, so this is how these two things will parallel, the spirit being ready and the matter being ready. So it all starts all the way up there in the atom, and it all comes down to the archangel. And that's very clearly written to us by the spirits. Question 540, Spirit's book. From the primitive atom to the archangel, who was also an atom, okay, started as an atom. That's how everything goes. So if we understand this whole thing here, it makes it a lot easier to understand what's going on, okay? So that's how matter was ready. So the spirit is ready, the organic matter is ready, now the planet has to be ready. I have to have the right conditions on the earth, on the crust. I have to have the right weather, everything has to be in place. So how do we study the formation of the earth? That could be complicated because from science we know that it all starts with the Big Bang, okay, where the universe started a certain number of billion years ago, and it goes all the way to the earth is ready, come on over and incarnate. Now, if I come here, this is difficult for us because we're not astronomers, we're not in this business, we're just spiritists, right? If I come over here and I tell you the Big Bang, the start of everything was 20 billion years ago, most people are going to say, oh, okay, that's interesting information. But then I can come here and say, but it wasn't 20 billion. I was playing with you. It was 10 billion. And you're still going to say, oh, that's okay. But one is half of the other, right? And why is that? Because we can't digest these numbers. You talk about 65 million years ago, we had dinosaurs. Okay, all right. Right. We cannot administer these numbers. We cannot, it doesn't sink in. So there's no point in me or anybody coming here and saying the Big Bang started 13.4 billion years ago, 800 billion years ago, this happened in 200 million years ago. You're already flying out, all of us, okay? So what the astronomers do is a technique to explain to us, people like us, what this thing is all about. What we do is we take this whole time, starting on the Big Bang until right now in this room, and we make it a 1 year of 365 days. That means January 1st is the Big Bang. December 31st, midnight, is now. It's us right here, right now. Because 1 year, it's easy to do administration. If I ask you, what did you do last August? You might think about for a couple of minutes, but you're going to tell, no, I was doing this and this and this. Because it's something we can deal with. We cannot deal with billions of years ago, millions of years ago. We don't know how to do this. So this is a technique used by them to explain to us. I'm going to use the same thing. All right, so January 1st, at 0 hour, is the Big Bang. December 31st, midnight, is now, okay? Big Bang, January 1st. The next important thing that happens in this evolution is May 1st. So you see, in theory, nothing that matters changed in like 4 or 5 months, okay? 1/5 of the whole period. First galaxies is not, here's Andromeda, here's Milky Way. No. There's a lot of particles going towards this direction. There's a lot of particles going towards this direction. That's what it means. It's not really formed yet. September 1st, I already passed half year easily. Okay, September 1st, stability of the sun. What is the stability of the sun? The explosions, okay, are less frequent. It's starting to sink in. The thing is accommodating. So we feel like, oh, yeah, no, there's a ball here. Yeah. Something is going to happen, okay? Something is going to happen. September 10th. I'm already in September 10th. The beginning of Earth. That means there's a lot of particles here. I think there's going to be a ball here of some form. That's what it means, okay? September 27th. So September 27th. Microscopic beings. What kind of beings are these? These are the crystalline viruses. It's all the way back there. Okay, that's not a small ant, nothing like this. Okay. October 11th, stability of the crust. Stability of the crust means we don't have the explosions anymore, but the climate is not ready. The pressure, the conditions are not ready yet. okay? But the explosions have stopped, and I'm already on October 11th. October 21st, then the outer layer starts to cool down, and now we can foresee something later on that's going to, allow us to bring somebody and step on the crust, okay? November 8th, marine structures. Marine structures is this. If I were able at this point to put my head under the sea, I would see things moving. But I can't tell you if it's a plant, if it's a crystalline virus, I don't know yet. I see things moving, that's what it is, okay? It's a very, very, very beginning. All right, let's keep going here. December 16th, sea life. Life is not even on land yet. Sea life, December 16th. December 24th, last week, 7 days ago, dinosaurs. And we go, dinosaurs were 65 million years ago. Well, think about it. Put in a different perspective. Look from different eyes, okay? We are looking from the spiritist eye now, not from the physical, astronomical, or anthropology. December 30th, yesterday, 10 in the morning, okay? Mammals and whales. December 31st, today, 5.5 hours ago. Divergence, dichotomy between apes and humans. That's the point. That's the point where we found a body that we can tweak a little bit and have this better spirit operate this machine. That's it right here. So this started 5.5 hours ago. It just started. That's something new. So when you look up the skies and say, he doesn't deserve a car, I do. Think about this. It's 5.5 hours. And we argue with God and we play games and all of that. 3.5 hours ago, Homo erectus. That means the anthropoids are no longer anthropoids. They're not like this. Right? They're more like humans. That's the humans. We're going to speak about this a little bit more. 1 minute and 2 seconds ago, exiles of Capella. I'm going to speak about this a little later. 25 seconds ago, first civilizations. First civilizations is not Roman Empire, it's nothing like this. There's a bunch of tribes here, and these tribes look around and say, oh, there are more tribes. Look at that. That's it. First civilization, meaning we should be talking, we should be getting together. That's what it is, okay? 5 seconds ago, Greek culture. What is Greek culture? Society is getting too big. We have a lot of people here. It's getting disorganized because just a lot of people in tribal mode, literally. So what happens is, well, we need to get this thing organized. Otherwise, we're going to be fighting all the time. How do we organize this? Well, I got a suggestion. Let's get like 50 people out of us here. These 50 people are going to be elected to take care of our society, make sure nothing happens, and we got our laws and everything. That's the concept of politics, okay? And the same way, by the same time, we look up at the skies. We see a lot of lights, a lot of different things, and we start asking things. I need to know this. I need to have knowledge about this thing. We look at the body, and some people die this way, some people die that way, some people die soon, some people die much later. I need to understand this. That's the whole idea behind medicine and politics. That all starts here. So science is very, very new. It has 5 seconds of life. So we cannot expect all the answers from science. It doesn't mean that we are right, they're wrong. It means they need more time. That's all it means. And we need to respect that. Okay? 4 seconds ago, Jesus. Oh, he just passed. Now think about this. 2,000 years ago, and we're still not learning. Calm down. That's 4 seconds ago. When you went to your first algebra class, and the teacher said, X plus Y plus Z, and 2 years later, you're still trying to figure out what he said. 2 years later. Maybe you never did for some people. Because it's just not your thing. Maybe you went to a chemistry class and a guy's speaking about atoms and molecules and you never got the idea. And he passed 4 seconds ago, and we want to understand everything. it's incompatible with the history that we see here. It's not possible. I don't know if it's clear, but you need to change your perspective. Don't revolt. I don't understand. He totally love your enemies. Calm down. That's only 4 seconds. He just passed. We just missed him. Calm down. We're going to understand one day. Don't revolt. Okay? Now, the big point for us is this. This. And this is when human incarnations start on the planet. Meaning, we are brand new over here. We are 5.5 hours old. Doesn't that change everything? You should. Okay, you should see that from a different perspective. Incarnations will start in the planet, and there's race after race coming from all the good old times until today. Spirit Emmanuel tells us something very interesting. There's a cycle of 520 years that he divides in 2 parts. Activity, the first half, and rest, second half. He doesn't have any information on rest, so obviously we don't either. But on the activity part, he has a lot of information that we can use. I already showed this to you once, but let's just go through it. This is a 260,000 years, so if you sum all these numbers here, you will go to 260,000. What it says is, we're going to divide, this is what it says to us, right? We're going to divide this in parts so we understand what it means. So he says the first part is 64,000 years, and then we have 7 little periods of 28,000 years. Okay. Now, if this is a cycle, it happens, then it stops, then it happens, and then it stops. So today we are somewhere in the current cycle. Okay, where am I today in the current cycle? We are right here. So we are like 3/4 of the way on the current cycle. Now, on the current cycle, this thing started about 200,000 before Christ. This is right after the anthropoids, when human incarnations start in the planet. This is, science knows this physical body as Neanderthal. Okay, so this Neanderthal came as right past the anthropoid. So it's not as much as a monkey, it's a little better, but it's not us. Okay. Now, and this thing happens throughout the cycle. Okay, so these 7 periods of 28,000 each, these are called races. Okay, and there's one after the other, as you see here. The difference between one race and the previous race is that this race, in comparison to the previous one, is more advanced physically, morally, and intellectually. Okay. Now, Emmanuel does not have any information on the first 2 races, but he does have information on the others. On the 3rd race, it's called Lemurians. Okay, then they go 28,000 years, they get replaced by the next race, the Atlantis. 28,000 years, they get replaced by the next race, that's us, Aryans. Okay, so we start just about year 25,000 BC. Okay, our race will be replaced by the year 3,000 more or less. And then we got 2 more races at the end of the cycle. So if you sum all these numbers here, it's 260,000 years. Okay. Now, here's a big question. Okay. Here I am. Am I exactly as this guy? Are we Neanderthal today? No. Okay, so in between this point and this point, there was a change. Huge change. Okay, because the body is not the same. This guy here, us, we have a brain that's 4 times bigger than this guy here. We have arms that are not as long as this guy here. We have a physical posture that is much more erect than this guy here. We have eyes that are smaller than this guy here. So we are not the same. So in between this point and this point, there was a change. That change includes, obviously, genetic changes, because the body is not the same. The structure of the body is not the same. So there was a change in genetics as well. How did it happen? It happens right here. Right before our race starts, okay, there was a change in genetics. This man here, for science, it gets the name of Cro-Magnon. Okay, so we had Neanderthal being replaced by Cro-Magnon. Now, think about this. We go back to the same machine, okay? If this is a better machine than this, is this guy going to be able to operate a better machine? No. So I have to have a better driver. Now, we don't have any better drivers because the drivers living in the planet are these. So I need to import drivers. Okay, I need to bring people from outside. Okay, who are these people? These are spirits, intelligences that are going to operate a better machine. These are the exiles of Capella. That starts happening at about just before 25,000 BC. What is this? These people, right, were on a different vortex, planetary vortex, just like ours, similar to ours. One of their orbs was going through the same problems that Earth was going through, where you had a lot of people not being able to follow the moral standards in this orb. Just like us, we have the same problem here today. And now, overall, these orbs, or this vortex, is more advanced than us, intellectually, physically, genetically, and morally. So although we had spirits in that orb that were down here in terms of moral, they were still more advanced than us. So Jesus is called to see if he would take these people in to help them work on their moral standards and help us because they're better than us morally. They can teach us something, or at least help.
Why Jesus?
Because he's the governor of the planet. He had to authorize that. Okay, so he was, and he said, yeah, bring him over, because we need that. So what happens is these people, these spirits, start little by little to come, and these are going to be Cro-Magnums. They're going to incarnate as, sons and grandsons and grand-grandsons of this new genetics. Okay, it's a better machine. We need a better intelligence. Now it starts slowly, very slowly. When things are in place, it's like you, right? You're going to drive a car, you go in the first and the second and the third, and then when you go to the highway, then you just fly. Oh yeah, now it's okay, now it's all right, let's just go. This is about the same thing. It starts slowly, we have to make some adjustments, do this, do that. It was exactly this, to the point where we said, this is it, we got it. And then now we can bring, instead of little by little, we can bring a whole lot of spirits right now. That right now was in the year 4000 BC. For other people, it means Adam and Eve, okay? Adam as a man, as a physical man. That's a whole different story. But this point in history has a name. Different authors call different things, but the names are like this. Fallen angels, that's the name that Kardec uses, fallen angels, the fall of paradise, the fall of Adam, names along these lines. These names are not very positive. They're like, everything like, it resembles destruction, right? Or something not really good. It brings a negative energy. The name is not really good. And why is that? It's like this. We go out here and we got our cars, okay, we got asphalt, we got water, we got toilets, we got everything. Right? And we complain, right? I should be having this, and he shouldn't having this. But we got it all. Then our boss is going to call us and going to say, well, you're going to spend 10 years. That's your next project. You're going to spend 10 years in Africa. And we go. So we land in Africa, and we look around, and where's the asphalt? Where's the car? And then, no, forget about that. Where's my water? Where's my toilet? I don't have any of that. So that's a bad feeling. That's the feeling of fallen angels. I was in paradise and I didn't know. These people from Capella, right? They were in a much, much, much better, more advanced place. But because of their moral standards, they had to be transmigrated over here. And now they got here and said, I had everything and I didn't know. They had to go through this. That's why we call these names fallen angels and falling paradise and the fall of paradise, whatever it is. It's because of this. It describes this. It describes the inability of these spirits to maintain their moral standards. They had to be transmigrated. And they come here and they go, wow, that's it? Yeah, that's it. Okay? All right, now, the Genesis book, like I said before, it was written in 1858, where in a time where, in France, okay, in a time and place where the church was still very strong, a lot of pressure from the church. And if you write something along these lines, Adam is not really a man, it's a concept. That's major. That is major. So Kardec had to justify his thoughts. So he goes through a lot of explanations. We're not going to go through that. His purpose is to justify why Adam cannot be seen as a one physical man, and more like a concept. Okay. Today it's very easy to explain, and the reason is here are some reasons. We know, documented, we know with no doubt whatsoever, that in the year 5000 BC, one of the dynasties in China, the Yangshao, was at full throttle. Full. Full means they had agriculture, they had organized economy, politics, education, full. That's in the year 5000 BC. Supposedly Adam, this first one man, is for 4000 BC, 1000 years later. So, also, I don't know if you follow the news very much, but once a year, year and a half, we hear on the news that we found some bones. Especially, these things are found a lot in the middle of the France, in the valley of two rivers, Dordogne and Loire. They are found sometimes, and they find these things. They know it's men. They are not animals, because you still see the composition. Okay, you see the skull and everything. And we can find out a time frame where these things come from using carbon test. We carbon test these things, and they are Neanderthals. They're not even Cro-Magnons. 29,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago. We just found the other day one that was 21,000 years ago that was a Cro-Magnon. How can you say that 4,000 years ago is the first physical man? So because of the knowledge that we have today, the technology, it doesn't even make sense anymore to talk about Adam as a first physical man. Okay, so it's just a concept. Anyway, so the spirit got ready, the matter got ready, the planet got ready, the incarnations take place, the races come one after the other. And let's see what happens at incarnation time then. Okay, and then Kardec explains to us a little bit what takes place. He divides this in six, like a succession of 6 items. Okay, Spirit André Luiz tells us that the incarnation is obviously a process. It's not a pinpoint in time. It's a process, and this thing takes about 7 years. Okay, but Kardec says let's divide into these 6 parts here that you see, and he goes to explain one by one. So first part, conception, that's when the 2 protoplasms touch. Okay, when that happens, that's when it is at that time that the incarnating spirit is going to tap into the matter, organic matter, is start to organize that matter. It is at that point. It's no later, it's not after clinical birth. It is when the first cell is formed. Okay? When the sperm goes into the egg, to get to the middle of the egg, okay, from the outer part to the middle, that's about 4 minutes travel. Okay? Once it gets into the middle, okay, the connection from the perispirit is about 15 minutes. So we're talking about 19, 20 minutes here. That's when the spirit is going to start manipulating. Actually, that's what it is, manipulating that matter, organizing that matter according to its perispirit. Okay? So a fluidic tie, which is an expansion of this perispirit, ties into the matter. The embryo develops. At the beginning, this connection is very weak, and it's easy to understand. If I tell you to hold this, you can hold easily. And I tell you to hold like a needle, you can still do, but it's more difficult. And I tell you to do a tiny, for example, screw, and try to, to use a screwdriver, it becomes very challenging. And smaller than that is very difficult. So it is difficult for the spirit to manipulate and operate this matter in such a small, tiny form. So in the beginning, this fluidic connection is very weak, and it will be stronger as the process develops. Okay. Then after this conception, the period still under the mother's body, you will go through what Kardec calls the adaptation period, which means the spirit was in a different form. It was in the spirit world, and it had to come in here to this tiny, tiny, tiny little cell, and it has to go through a transformation. So that's the adaptation process. It has to be able to attach itself to the new form, to the fetus and the embryo, the fetus, and so on. And it's very complicated, okay? But that is what Kardec calls the adaptation period. And that goes all the way through the whole process, the whole 9 months. And then at the very end, okay, you will go through what Kardec calls, the spirits actually call loss of self-awareness, in which it's like the spirit, it's like one of us is going to faint. You start losing it, and there's a point where you just go. All right. So before you just fall on the floor, you go like, who am I? What am I doing here? That's the adaptation period. And at birth, the spirit doesn't really see what's going on. It passes out, in simple words. Okay. So it's never a witness, conscious witness of its own birth. It doesn't see. It's like it passed out. And then clinical birth. So the spirit is born now. Okay, and when the spirit, the newborn breathes, the spirit starts to recover its faculty. It means it's us. We faint. Now we're trying to wake up, and we go like, wow, what happened? Where am I? I need to adjust myself. I need to readjust myself. I need to find out where I am. I need to go through a whole recognition process. Okay, that's what this is. So the spirit has to go through all of this. And then a period of readjustment. Let's try. Okay, readjustment. Okay, what is this? Let's go by example because it's easier. Think about somebody like Michael Phelps. You know who Michael Phelps is? Yeah. The swimmer? Okay.
That's the one.
That's not the last one.
No, we're one before. Anyway. Okay. So this means spirit Michael Phelps is in the spirit world waiting to come in. He's going to incarnate. He's going to be the biggest swimmer of all times. Okay. So Michael Phelps is born. He's 2 months old, and I put him in the pool. What happens? He's going to die. But he's supposed to be the biggest swimmer of all times. Isn't that strange? He will be. But his physical attributes are not ready. So that ability will not be recovered until the physical attributes are ready to follow that attribute. That's what Kardec is saying here. Okay, the organs, the physical organs, have to develop first for the ability to show up. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. Mozart is going to incarnate. Mozart is 6 months old. We sit him in the little piano. He's going to fall. He cannot even sit straight. He's going to fall and hit the head. Why? Because the physical abilities needed to demonstrate that spiritual ability, intellectual ability, is not ready yet. This is what Kardec calls, or the spirit call, the readjustment process. Now, finally, the spirit goes through a refinement process in which it goes through all of this, it kind of passes out and wakes up and it finds who it is, and now it's going to have to recover the abilities that matter for this particular life or lifetime. This is very interesting, especially after the 70s because of the technology that we have. There are a lot of proven cases where kids, small kids, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, they would say to the parents things like this: in my last life I was this and this and this, and my name was such, and I did this and this and this. And the parents would go after the information because in the 70s, in the 80s, it's a lot easier to find this information than 2 centuries ago. And they were able to verify all that information. And because of all the technology that we have, they would tape their kids at home saying these things. And then the kid is like 8 years old, 15 years old, and they will tell the kids when they were 15, 16, you used to say this and this, and the kid, what? I never said that. I don't remember any of that. So they have to show the tape for the kids to say, yeah, that was me, but I don't remember any of that. That's exactly what Kardec is saying here. The spirit, that's the forgetfulness of the past. You forget about the past. That's what it is. We can easily prove this today. Okay? So, everything was in place, and the spirit, matter, planet, it all happens. And what do we take from this? What do we take home? Okay? What is the homework? There's always a homework, otherwise. We know from science, okay, when you look at all this thing here, it's so big that we cannot even tell you the real numbers. We have to compress everything into 1 year so we can kind of barely grasp the meaning of that. And Jesus comes and says, there are many dwellings in my Father's house. Science tells us exactly the same thing in different words, but they tell us exactly the same thing. There are 300 billion galaxies that we can observe. In each one of these galaxies, there are 200 billion suns. Okay? This thing started here 13.4 billion years ago. Now, if you're a real spiritist, and this is the God that you see, okay, and you see 300 billion galaxies, we cannot even grasp this. 200 billion suns in each galaxy. And we want the same iPod that the neighbor has. And we don't like the dress that she went to the party with because it was the same as my wife's. You see how it changes perspective. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. When you understand this, it doesn't matter anymore. That's so small, all right? But you can only see this as so small when you understand this. If we don't understand this, if we don't grasp the beginning of it, we're still going to be doing the same thing that we do every day. And that's what I'm trying to give you a different view, okay? Now, look at this. In this book, it would be like Life and Path, something like that in English. There's no translation yet. Spirit Emmanuel tells us this. We are infinitely insignificant to comprehend all of this universe, the dimensions. We cannot even... We look out, we're like, I don't know how far it goes, okay? Similar to thinking amoebas. So we are thinking amoebas, right? And despite of having the intelligence, we still cannot grasp. We look at the horizon, we can still not grasp what this means. Because our physical senses, our machine is much better than the monkeys, but it's still not perfect. There's a lot to be done, okay? Now, one interesting passage is in codification itself, in the Spirits book. One of the spirits tells us this. It's very interesting. When I consider how short life is, period, in this 365-day thing, okay, the duration of one lifetime, 70, 80 years, is 20 times faster than a flash of camera. Okay, 20 times faster than a flash of camera. That's one lifetime. Okay, so now it makes sense. When I consider how short life is, I'm grievously impressed that we use all this time for material stuff, and we do not consider any, or we do not put any effort in moral improvement. That's what he's saying. So we use this flash 25 times faster than a camera flash. And we use for what? To look at what the neighbor has, to look at, what, to argue with God. You're doing everything wrong. I deserve this. She doesn't. He doesn't. That's what we do. So we need to maybe start doing different. Make good use of the time that we are allowed. We are allotted a very tiny period of time, incarnate life, that has a purpose. The purpose is not to find out what my neighbors have so I can have better. It wasn't anything like this, okay? So we start all here. Everything starts here. In the current present time, and what we have today is basically a huge, huge, huge atom with 7 billion electrons. Each one of us is an electron. In the late 40s, because of technology at the time, we were then able to find out something very interesting. what keeps the atom in place, that central energy in there and the energies around floating and doing the right thing that they should, what keeps it going is the center, okay, the nucleus sends energy out to the electrons, and the electron sends energy back to the center. So it's a give and take. Now, what happens if one of the electrons says, send me energy? Yeah, send me more. Yeah, I want more. More, send me more. What's going to happen to the atom? It's going to disintegrate. It's going to fall apart. So we are 7 billion electrons wanting. I want, give me. And we don't give anything back. So what happens? We are disintegrating the whole society, the planet. The planetary life, we could say. We are disintegrating because each one of us is doing this. Nobody's giving back. We all want. Now, if we get out of the black box and we see things at a different light, maybe the way we're displaying here, it would be better. When we just want and we take everything out of balance, this out of balance, it shows up in different forms. These are some of them. We display this, give me, in different forms. These are some of them. It looks like today, probably this one is what's out there, okay? It is so absurd, our behavior, that sometimes some person that we don't know, comes to us, says something, and you look at them. Remember, 300 billion galaxies, 200 billion suns. We look at them and you say, who do you think you're talking to? Where are the 300 galaxies and the 200 billion suns? That's the lesson to us. Okay, so when I say, who do you think you're talking to? Immediately, I should tell myself, who do I think I'm talking to? He's the same human being going through the same things that I have to go through, fighting the same problems, etc., etc., etc. Okay, you all have a good night. Thank you.